Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to look at recent sales for both graded and ungraded mint on card vintage Star Wars action figures. We got some heaters. We got some heaters in this one. We've got a 65 back B Boba Fett, clear blister AFA 85, some 12 backs and 20 backs, I believe, as well as this gorgeous, that I really wanted to bid on, by the way, this gorgeous AFA 80 tri-logo Luke Farm Boy with that alternate gunner image. Oh man, I really wanted that one, and the final price did not disappoint. As always, thanks to my Patreon supporters. They allow this channel to happen. Patreon.com/actionfiguregrader is where you can go to sign up for as little as $1 a month. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to start off with some Gold Star Tech items, and then finish off with some, as well as some from Brian's Toys at the end of the video. But this was a 12-back A C-3PO graded AFA 85, 75. 75, 80, 80 were the sub-scores, but as a 12-back A unpunched, it did have some litho damage there in the upper left-hand corner from where probably the price sticker was attempted to be removed. But still an overall 75, 12A, early card back C-3PO, very nice example. 1575 was the final winning bid on that one, 46 bids. Next up was another 12A. This was the Stormtrooper graded 75, 75, 80, 75. You can see the torso discoloration on that Stormtrooper there, so that's why I got the 75 subscore for the figure. But still, it's, again, a 12-back A, unpunched. It did have that big crease in the upper right there, which probably was the main culprit for why it got the 75 score overall. 1575 again on that one. So interesting that both of the 75s, both of them 12-back A's, and they both ended at the exact same price of 1575. Interesting. Next up, I thought this was actually a really good deal. I don't know if this just fell through the cracks or what. I didn't even see this one get listed, but it was a 12-back B Palatoy Sand People, or Tusken Raider if you want to talk dirty to me, and it was graded AFA 80 plus. 80 plus for a Palatoy 12-back for the Tusken Raider, 80, 85, 85. Unpunched, no price sticker, and it was at $1,400. Only one bid on it. So, to me, that seems like a very fair price, a very, very fair price for what that was. The Tusken Raider itself did not have any kind of staining to the cape that I can see, but it just fell through the cracks. I did not even see this one get listed, but I thought that was a very, very fair price for what that was. Next up was a 20-back B Stormtrooper graded AFA 80, 85, 80, 80 were the subscores on that one. This was a punched example, no price sticker. Still clear blistered, though, very nice. And $1,400 was the final sales price on that one. So 20-back B, $1,400, and a 12-back A, but admittedly a lower score, sold for only about $175 more. So just interesting comparison there, I thought, for a buy it now situation. Here was a 21-back B Han Solo, and it was graded AFA 80. The subscores were straight 80, and the blister was a little weird looking on the left-hand side. It probably is just my imagination or just a reflection there, but it looks like it's got some maybe overheating from the blister, so it caused a little bit of a rippling effect on the blister on the left side. It could just be a bad photo, too. But this was a punched example, but $22.99 was the final price. This one was a buy it now situation plus shipping, so let's call that about $23.25 for an AFA 80 Han Solo large head. I don't know if that's a great deal or not. I probably should have looked up some of these early card backs on the closed Hakes listings just to compare them. But at first blush, it feels like a little expensive to me. That's kind of my first guess. But I would have to kind of do a little bit more research on it just to compare it. But $2,300 just seems a little high to me for a punched example AFA 80. This seller, Jada34, which we've talked about in the past, he had, or she, I don't know if it's a he or she, but they had some nice MOCs for sale, although I would argue this one was terribly overgraded. This one was a 21-back A Walrus Man. It got an 80 for the card score, but if you look at the card here, I mean, it had a major crease going from the top of the hang tab all the way through to the left-hand side of the hang tab and goes all the way down the card. How do you give that an 80 score for the card? So to me, this is definitely overgraded, way overgraded. And I know CAS is guilty of that sometimes. Sometimes they're not. It's just weird. But this is one where I thought they drastically overgraded this one. This one at best is like a 75 to me. It's sold at $965, which I don't know if that's a terrible price really, but you just got to know what you're getting there. Because I think if you had busted this out, sent it to, or even just sent it as is to AFA and let them bust it out, I think there's no way it gets an 80. I think at best a 75 for that one. But it was a clear blister. It was certainly a nice item. I'm not trying to say it wasn't a nice item. $965, probably on the high side, just given what it was. But this is one where you got to buy the card, buy the item, not the grade, because this grade is not applicable, in my opinion. It's drastically overgraded. And it was a recent grade, too. It was a 2024 grade. So somebody let that one slip through the cracks, in my opinion. That's not an 80 to me for the card score or overall. But that's what it was. That's what they gave it. Next up was a 70 plus for Snaggletooth. I mean, you could make an argument that this one is just as similar condition to the Walrus Man. It had a crease in the lower right, which was definitely more pronounced than any of the creases on the Walrus Man. But this Snaggletooth got a 70 for the card, blister 85, figure 85, with some damage by the hang tab as well. This is probably more appropriate to what the Walrus Man should have gotten too, in my opinion. But that one did sell for $410. $410 for the Snaggletooth 21 back A. Next up, this was a beauty. I thought this one was appropriately graded. This one was a 31 back A debut card for the Hoth Stormtrooper. CAS 80, 80, 80, 85. Card looks like an 80 to me. It feels like an 80. And here's the back of the card, very clean. So this is one where I feel like, it was appropriately graded. And I thought the price was very fair at $701. It had one little ding in the upper left of the blister there. And, the blister score was an 80, so I'm okay with that. But this one definitely feels like an 80 grade overall. And 701 for the debut card, clear blister for the Hoth Stormtrooper. We've seen some AFA graded examples go for quite a bit more than that, so I thought that was a very fair deal. Here was a CAS 80 plus for the 45 back Death Star droid, and it had one little faint crease right there above the hang tab. Card 80, blister 85, figure 85 on that one. That one sold for $550, which I thought was also very fair. I've got a CAS 85, but I would argue that it's pretty much similar to what this is, an 80 or an 80 plus. Mine feels overgraded when I look at it compared to this. But, that's about what I paid for mine. I paid $500, I think, for mine. This one sold for $550. But this one feels like an 80 plus, or maybe an 80 at the low end. Next up, this price was a big one. This was a big price, but it was, I believe, the debut card for the removable limbs C-3PO. This is now with removable limbs, so I'm almost positive this is the debut card. One faint crease going from left to right from the edge of the card to the hang tab there, and it got the 80 plus, 80, 85, 90. Were the subscores on this one. And it sold for $15.25. So that just shows you how expensive that 47 back removable limb C-3PO is. No matter what the grading company is, you're going to be paying a lot of money for it. I vaguely remember an AFA graded example that was, I think, an 85 that sold for even more. It was in the twos, I believe. It might have been 2,500, somewhere in that ballpark, or more. I don't remember, but it was sometime last year that one sold, and it was insane money. So $15.25 probably feels like the right number to me. Here was a 75 grade yellow blister 45 back hammerhead. It did have some creasing by the hang tabs with the Kmart price sticker. That sold at $435. That number also feels pretty high to me. Card score of 70, blister 85, figure 90. But a yellow blister for $435. It's not a terrible overpay by any means, but definitely feels a little more expensive than I was expecting. Here was a Slave 1 die cast on a beater card. That sold for $275. You can see the major wear and damage to it. It was still sealed, and it appears to still be a clear blister to me. Again, this is not an item you get graded, but, it's a very nice display piece for what it is, and $275, can't beat that price, very fair. This was an interesting sale. This was a proof card. Empire Strikes Back die-cast Imperial TIE Fighter proof card, plus a graded Star Wars Racetrack TIE Fighter die-cast. So the die-cast TIE Fighter on the 12-back was a DCA 85, and then the proof card was a 90. So these were very, very nice items. Very high-end, investment grade type items. And the final sales price, if I can get this thing to refresh for me, sold for $3,500. So I don't know if that's a fair price or not. It feels like a very good deal to me to get a proof. It's hard to find the die-cast proof cards. You never see those. When's the last time? I don't even know if I've ever seen one before. I'm sure there's been one on Hakes, but I haven't seen one or remember one. But you're getting an 85 grade clear blister 12-back die-cast TIE Fighter, plus a 90 grade ESB proof card. And Empire Strikes Back items pre-production are notoriously expensive or difficult to find. The first shot prototypes for the 3 3/4 inch figures, notoriously expensive. They are the most expensive typically versus Star Wars characters, and not all of them obviously, but many of the Star Wars first 21 characters are relatively not that expensive for prototypes. But when you get to the ESB first shot prototypes and engineering palettes, things like that, those are very pricey, very, very pricey. Multiple thousands of dollars for those. So, and the same kind of applies to the proof cards, right? The proof cards for the 3 3/4 inch characters are much more expensive than like the Revenge of the Jedi proof cards. Typically, not always, but I'm just giving you broad generalizations here. So to me, $3,500, it feels like a good deal. This is, this to me feels like a very, very fair price for what that was. A very high grade die cast as well as a proof card at $3,500. That's a lot of money, okay? I'm not trying to say it's not a lot of money, but for what it is, I thought that was good. AFA 85 Revenge of the Jedi proof card. Speak of the devil. This one was a buy it now situation for $3,300. This is Luke X-Wing, AFA 85 for that Revenge of the Jedi proof card. $3,300. Again, that's another one I'd like to compare against some Hakes closed examples. I'll try to remember to do that for you guys for future kind of big boy items like this that we see sell on eBay. I'll try to pull up the history on Hakes just to give us some better, data points to see how the price has changed over the years, because I'm sure at some point this was on Hakes or something similar to it sold on Hakes, but $3,300, it feels about right to me, but maybe on the upper end. It just, to me, the Revenge of the Jedi proof cards start to get into that price point of $3,000 plus when you start talking about Princess Leia, Yoda, Darth Vader, any of the Lukes. So, at first blush, it doesn't feel like a drastic overpay, but my gut says that in an auction on Hakes, this probably goes $2,500 to $2,800, somewhere in that ballpark. Next up, here was that Boba Fett that Gold Star Tech had. This was a 65B clear blister AFA 80. Punched example, that sold at $3,507. I was a little surprised it went that high, to be honest. A couple of my Patreons, I sent this out to them, and I think I might have featured it in a what to buy video. I don't remember, but they asked me in private messages, what do you think it's going to go for? And I was thinking 3,000. That was kind of my number. But I probably should have known better, just given that it's Boba Fett and given that it is a clear blister on a Return of the Jedi high grade. $3,500. It doesn't feel like a terrible overpay, but my guess was $3,000 before this auction ended. Next up, here is that beautiful tri-logo. This was mouth-watering. I wanted this so bad for my collection, but this one had the blister support, archival case, AFA 80, and it had the alternate image Luke on the card back, and it was a German Parker card back. You can see there, it says blonde hair, Parker card, and we've talked about that ad nauseum, but it's got that thinner, longer hang tab with the brighter yellow back, so it's the German Parker card back. That one sold for $34.51. Woo! That's probably not one I'm ever going to have in my tri-logo collection, but that one was an absolute beauty. Congrats whoever got that one. I don't, is it an overpaid? Probably not, really, at this point. I feel like this is one, any of the main heroes on these tri-logos where you got the alternate image too. I don't think it's an overpay personally. If I had the money handy, I probably would have bought, bid on it. I don't know if I would have gone to $34.50, to be honest. I probably would have maxed, if I'm being truthful about it, if I was bidding on this and I didn't know that it was ending at 3450, I think my max bid would have been closer to 2,800, 3,000. That's probably where I would have bid personally. And it wouldn't have won, but that's where I would have felt comfortable. And I'm usually low. I mean, let's be real. I mean, you know, if I look at the stuff I bid on over the last year or so, I very rarely overbid. I did a few times, and on the few times I did, I still lost for the most part. But I did overbid on a few items over 2024, but the items where I bid a fair price, I almost always lost, almost always. And this one I certainly would have lost at 34.51 with the final bid. Brian's Toys had this AFA 85 unpunched, no price sticker, Power of the Force Jawa, obviously yellowed blister, but it wasn't 85. That one did sell at 700 in a buy it now. This seller had a 75 plus grade AFA Power of the Force Ben Kenobi. Pretty nice example overall. I got a 75 plus mainly because of the wear around the hang tab. Probably someone, pulled the hang tab off when they bought it originally. It caused that very light litho damage, which is unfortunate. But that one still sold at $600. And then finally, another buy it now situation. This one was a AFA 80, it looks like. Let me see here. AFA 80, Han Solo in Carbonite, 80, 85, 85. This is a Power of the Force, unpunched, no price sticker. Big number on that. This seller usually lists their stuff very high. That's been my experience. But it did sell, apparently, at $1,400. Big number. Big number there. So, anyway, I hope you found this information helpful. Thank you, as always, for watching. Don't forget to leave me a like, as it does help out with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.